The battle raged on across the alien planet, its red skies darkened by the plumes of smoke rising from the war zone. Mira, a seasoned warrior from a far-off planet, moved silently through the wreckage, her eyes scanning for any signs of enemy activity. She had been fighting in this war for as long as she could remember, a soldier forged in the fires of endless conflict. She was used to the violence, the bloodshed, the heartache of losing comrades, but it was part of the life she had chosen. Her mission was clear: infiltrate the enemy stronghold, gather intelligence, and escape unnoticed. But everything changed the moment she crossed paths with Lorien. Lorien was a towering figure among warriors, his imposing frame and battle-worn armor marking him as someone of importance. Unlike the others in her ranks, Lorien wasn't just another soldier. He was a warrior of legend. His race, the Eldari, was known for their superhuman strength and speed. They were unmatched in battle, and their warriors were seen as near invincible. Lorien, however, didn't act like someone who had tasted victory countless times. There was something different about him, something that intrigued Mira from the first moment their eyes met across the battlefield. The two didn't speak. They didn't need to. Both were warriors, trained for years to trust their instincts. Mira knew that Lorien was just as skilled and as deadly as she was, if not more. He moved with the grace of a predator, effortlessly cutting down the enemy soldiers that stood in his path. Mira followed suit, her combat style sharp and precise, always focused, always deadly. But as the battle wore on, the noise, the explosions, the heat of the fight, it all seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them moving in perfect synchrony, their bodies as one in the dance of war. After the battle, the atmosphere felt strangely quiet. The once bustling war zone was now filled with silence, broken only by the distant sounds of fires still burning. Mira was standing amidst the debris, catching her breath. She had done her part, her mission had been a success. But something gnawed at her. Something she couldn't explain. It was Lorien. She had seen him fight, but it was more than just his skill. It was the way he carried himself. There was a strength in him that went beyond physical prowess, a depth of character that Mira had never encountered before. In a world where warriors were taught to shut down their emotions, to focus solely on the mission, Lorien seemed different. He had a quiet intensity, a calmness that mirrored the quiet after a storm, and for some reason it drew Mira to him. As she gathered her equipment preparing to leave, Mira found herself looking over her shoulder, toward where Lorien stood. He had noticed her gaze, his own eyes meeting hers from across the battlefield. A spark of understanding passed between them. It wasn't something spoken, not even something that could be described in words. It was a connection. A pull. Are you leaving? Lorien's voice broke through the silence, calm and steady. Mira's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to speak to her. She hesitated, unsure of what to say. I must. The mission is complete. But as she turned away, something inside her stirred. Her instincts told her to keep moving, to continue on with her mission. But there was another voice inside her, one that spoke of something deeper, a connection she couldn't ignore. She looked back at him, his strong features lit by the dim glow of the fire. It was then that she realized she didn't want to leave him, not just because of the attraction that had sparked between them, but because something about him felt like home. It was a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time, perhaps not ever. Lorien took a step toward her, his eyes never leaving hers. His movements were deliberate, slow, giving her time to react if she wanted to pull away. But she didn't. She stood still, her pulse racing. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of their breathing. Mira. Lorien's voice was barely a whisper, yet it held so much meaning. Stay. Mira's heart thudded in her chest. She had spent her life guarding her emotions, pushing them aside for the sake of the mission, for the sake of war. But here, in this moment, with Lorien standing in front of her, she couldn't fight it anymore. The war, the battles, the endless cycle, it all felt so far away. It felt like there was only the two of them. Why? Her voice barely escaped her lips, barely a breath. Lorien stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet comforting at the same time. Because you don't have to be alone anymore. You don't have to carry this weight by yourself. We could fight together. The words struck her deeply, stirring something she hadn't allowed herself to feel. She had always been alone, her people had always been alone, fighting their own battles. But with Lorien, she felt like maybe, just maybe, there could be something more. something worth fighting for. Before she could respond, the sudden roar of enemy ships cut through the air, reminding her of the world outside their bubble of silence. The war was still raging, but for a split second Mira didn't care. All that mattered was the moment they shared. Lorien reached out, gently touching her arm. "I can't let you go," he said, his voice firm but full of unspoken emotion. Mira's heart raced as she met his gaze once more, unsure of what to say or do. She had spent her life avoiding attachments, keeping everyone at a distance. But Lorien, he made her want to stay. With a deep breath, she made her decision. Mira dropped her weapons, the weight of them feeling less significant now. "I won't leave," she said quietly. And in that moment, she knew she wasn't just talking about leaving the battlefield. She was talking about leaving him. And that thought, for the first time in her life, terrified her. Mira's decision to stay with Lorien wasn't easy. Her heart pulled in one direction, but her duty as a warrior still clung tightly to her soul. For as long as she could remember, she had lived alone, trained to fight, to be strong, to trust no one but herself. It was how she survived, and yet something about Lorien's presence made her feel different. She felt seen, not just as a warrior, but as a woman, a person who deserved something more than the endless battles of war. The days that followed her decision were filled with a mixture of uncertainty and quiet joy. Mira and Lorien found themselves side by side in battles, their bond strengthening with each victory. They fought together as one, their movements fluid and synchronized, a partnership built on trust. But there were moments when Mira found herself alone, staring out into the endless horizon, wondering if she had made the right choice. She had never imagined her life would take this turn. She had expected to leave to continue her fight for her people. But now, with Lorien by her side, she couldn't help but feel that there was more to life than war. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Mira found herself in the quiet corner of their makeshift camp. Lorien, ever the protector, was at the front, keeping watch for any potential threats. But Mira's mind was elsewhere. She leaned back against a large rock, her hand resting on her chest where the symbol of her people, an intricate design of a warrior's blade, was tattooed. She had earned it after countless battles, but now it felt heavier. She knew the weight of it, but she also knew the weight of the promise she had made to herself long ago, to never let anyone close, to never rely on anyone else. That promise was slowly crumbling away. Lorien's voice broke the silence, soft yet steady. "You're troubled," he said, his eyes never leaving the horizon. Mira looked up at him, surprised by his ability to read her so easily. "I'm not troubled. I'm just—" She paused, unsure of how to finish the thought. "Just what?" Lorien asked, moving toward her, his presence both calming and powerful. Mira took a deep breath. "I'm not used to this. To having someone like you by my side. I've always fought alone." Lorien knelt beside her, his gaze gentle. "You don't have to fight alone anymore. I'm here. We're in this together." His words were like a balm to the wound inside her, a wound she had hidden for so long. Mira turned her gaze to the stars above, the same stars that had witnessed so many of her battles. She had always looked to them for guidance, for solace, but now it felt like they were watching her make a choice she never thought she would make. "I never thought I would be here," Mira said quietly. "I thought I'd always be alone, a soldier with no ties, no connections." Lorien reached out, gently placing his hand on hers. "You're not alone anymore, Mira. You have me, and I will protect you always." The sincerity in his words washed over her, and for the first time in a long while, Mira felt herself soften. It was terrifying, this feeling of dependence, of not having to face the world on her own. But there was something incredibly freeing about it, too. The next few days were a blur of strategy and preparation. The war was far from over, and both Mira and Lorien knew they couldn't let their guard down. But their bond had deepened. They shared quiet moments, small touches, fleeting glances that spoke volumes. Their love, unspoken yet undeniable, became their greatest strength. One night, after another fierce battle, they found themselves alone in the quiet of their camp. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a pale light over the landscape. Mira sat by the fire, her gaze distant, lost in thought. Lorien approached her slowly, sensing her need for space but also knowing she wasn't truly alone. "Are you still thinking about leaving?" he asked gently. Mira's eyes flickered to his, the question hanging in the air. I don't know, she whispered. I've always been a warrior, Lorien. I've always been the one to make the tough decisions, but now I feel torn. Lorien knelt in front of her, his hands resting on her knees. You don't have to decide anything right now. We're in this together, Mira. Whatever happens, I'll be by your side. For a long moment, Mira studied him, her heart racing. She had fought so hard to remain independent, to keep her emotions locked away, but here, with Lorien, she couldn't hide anymore. She had never known someone could make her feel this way, could make her question everything she had believed in. I'm afraid, she admitted softly, afraid of what this means, afraid of what we're becoming. Lorien reached out, his hand cupping her cheek. We're becoming who we were always meant to be. You're not alone, Mira. You never have to be alone again. Mira closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. In that moment, all the fear, all the doubts faded away. She realized that she had already made her choice. She had chosen him, not because she was weak, but because she was strong enough to admit that she needed him. They had faced death together, and now they would face the future side by side. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you for not giving up on me. Lorien's smile was soft and genuine. I'll never give up on you, Mira, not now, not ever. The night stretched on, the world around them quiet and peaceful. In the stillness, they found solace in each other's arms. Mira had always thought she was meant to be a warrior, alone in her fight. But now, with Lorien by her side, she realized that perhaps there was something more, something worth fighting for beyond the war. Something that didn't need to be fought alone. As they lay under the stars, their hearts intertwined, Mira finally allowed herself to believe that love could be a part of the battle. And with Lorien, she knew she had found not just a partner in war, but a partner for life.